We turn now to Salt Lake County Councilwoman Jenny Wilson, the Democratic nominee in the U.S. Senate race. Jenny, great to have you back on the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
You got into this race late last year. Talk about why. What is it that drew you to the race and why you officially jumped in?
Well, I've worked for balance in this state for a long time. I mean, it's no secret I'm a Democrat. We have a very Republican state, and I think we can better serve Utah by having a strong Democrat in the delegation who will work across party lines. So I just thought this is maybe my time. This works for my family right now. I'm a county elected. I love that, but I've also worked in D.C. and really think we need a new generation of leaders there, and that's what I represent.
When you first jumped into the race, it was under the assumption you'd be running against Senator Hatch. That obviously changed. Mitt Romney became the Republican nominee. Would you have made the same decision, knowing that going into it?
Absolutely. I mean, this has been a gift for me and my family to travel to 29 counties, to engage with people, to learn more about the state, to get my message out there. And I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of our volunteer force. We're having really a good time in this race. I know Mitt Romney. I worked with him at the Olympic Games. At our debate, we sort of, at a minute, we didn't know how to address each other because we used to work closely as Mitt and Jenny.
I noticed that right off the top.
Yeah, so we're pretty friendly, and I don't mean anything against him. I'm just from Utah. I get the issues. I work in the community. I think I have a lot to offer, and I will work towards victory until the end of this race.
Let's talk about some of these issues and how you differ from him, where you see things differently. One, immigration reform. Where do we go from here?
Well, we have a lot of work to do. I worked in Congress, or for Congress, in the 90s for Bill Orton, and even then we were trying to reform immigration. Years have passed, nothing's been done. So I think legal immigration reform is necessary in order to figure out what is the right amount of people to allow to legally cross our borders.
Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I really believe that we can go upwards in terms of our numbers. We know our ag industry here in Utah. California has needs for people. We have people in our communities. So I think we need to maybe set aside some of the rhetoric and really look at a fact-based approach as we expand immigration. My plan has three principles. One is that we are comprehensive in our work towards immigration reform. The second is that we are compassionate. And the third is that we are family-centered. I think breaking apart families is just the wrong way to go. It's not compassionate, and it's, I think, harmful not just to families themselves, but our community as a whole.
The approach to health care in Congress over the last few years, completely partisan. The Affordable Care Act passed without one Republican vote. The Republicans tried to repeal that. No Democratic support. Where do we go? How do we fix the health care issue that we're facing right now?
Well, I agreed with the Affordable Care Act's expansion with people having deeper coverage. I think that it was a compromise, and we ended up, to a certain degree, but we ended up with something that needed reform, and I believe we can reform the Affordable Care Act. What I love about it is that we now, through the Affordable Care Act, have people stay on their parents' plans until they're 27. We're a state that has a lot of missionaries and a lot of people having a little bit of a longer cycle through college or trade school. So that is a good principle we should keep, along with the coverage of pre-existing conditions.
I think most people would hear that and say, yeah, we agree with that. And I've heard that from Republicans on Capitol Hill, but still, we stood at a stalemate.
Right.
And really, the cost has always been an issue as well, and we didn't necessarily see that come down with the Affordable Care Act. So how do you address the cost and get it more affordable? To
me, it's two phases. You stabilize the Affordable Care Act. We do that in 2019 early, and then we spend another year or two on true reform, where we really look again at how we can go back to building a better plan. I think we're going to have to look at some form of a government option to feed into our system. I don't want to compromise our quality health care. I had a medical crisis in my family with my son needing open heart surgery at 6 months old. Believe me, we needed that very advanced surgeon and the best facilities in the world. But at the same time, the fact that we had insurance matters, and it helped us, and I can't imagine that we would go backward and have fewer people. We should all be able to agree that expansion of people on our healthcare rolls is a really good goal, and that quality healthcare so that my son's life can be saved and others facing cancer with unique treatments. And we are such a powerful healthcare provider in the world, and I think we don't want to lose that, but we have to get back to building, to expanding people's access.
Let's talk about the local state economy. We're having a lot of success in ways here in the state of Utah. What do you do in your position as a senator, if you're elected, to help keep that ball rolling?
Well, we've been really reliant on the Wasatch Front with good programming and infrastructure, and I think we look at the growth and the demands in our three primary counties with a large population, and continuing infrastructure and support through the federal government I think is really important. I'm for cutting government and finding the waste in government. I think we can do that, but infrastructure is so key to us being able to move through our counties and expand our economies. What I really have concerns about is the fact that there are many people suffering in this state where they live in an urban area. We've seen additionally a lot of challenges with people outside of the Wasatch Front in our rural communities needing good paying jobs. And I think the federal government is part of the continuum along with the states and locals in providing a safety net for people and opportunity. And I think that's going to take investment and support.
We have about a minute left, but I want to get your thoughts on Washington and how it sits today. I think the average person looks at it and says, this is broken. You talked about balancing, bringing a Democratic viewpoint to Washington. How do you go into Washington and be different than the way it is now?
Well, I work on a county council, and there are 5 Republicans on our council, 4 Democrats, and we work across party lines. We don't always join hands and sing Kumbaya. We've had some battles, but we work it out and we get things done. And I think that model is what Washington needs. And when I speak about a Democrat in the delegation, I worked for Bill Orton, who was a good Democrat. Jim Matheson, I remember the days of my father, Ted Wilson, working with Cal Rampton and Scott Matheson. Democrats working hand in hand with Republicans and getting things done. Let's bring that back to Washington.
All right, appreciate your time. We will see how this all pans out in the next couple of weeks. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, Utah voters are being asked if they support raising the gas tax for education funding. We'll debate the issue with our panel right after the break. Stay with us.